Are you insane? Do you like doing insane Minecraft projects? How about building mountains? Because I like building mountains. So today, I know a lot of people recently have been starting their own custom survival Minecraft mountain projects, which are so fun to build. So today, I want to take some time and offer a few tips where I can for building up some mountains that might be a little bit more like these lovely things that you're seeing here behind me. And with that, without any further ado, let's get to it. All right, folks, welcome to a brand new Minecraft world. I figured this would be the best way to show you all some lovely mountain building tips in here. And we're just going to take advantage of this nice terrain that we have here, because this is going to represent a lot of what I want to do with it. And first and foremost, the one that I want to talk about here is probably going to be best to do a little bit of a replay mod. So we'll get that recording started for ourselves. And it's to start with a slope going up your Minecraft terrain. So instead of just going from, like, let's grab some stone here for us, but instead of just going like where you go like bam, 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 and you just start bringing it straight up like this, and you're just going straight into the air, and you're like, hey, this is my mountain, that's what I'm doing. We probably don't want to do that right away, because it just looks like sudden flatland into a big mountain. Look at mountains in the real world. That's not really how they work or how they function. So what you want to do here is, we got to grab our dirt here to get the double dirt going. And you want to start, maybe we'll start like right like that, and then we can bring it down here, and then maybe bring this out so it comes out 2 blocks, and then bring it down this way a little bit further, and just slowly merging it back into the Minecraft terrain. Work on a gradual slope where it goes like this, curves itself upwards, and then you get into the steep part of the stone, and then you come upwards even further, and then you can continue the rest of their mountains, which we will talk about now. Next tip for y'all here is to create 2 points inside of your Minecraft world. In this case, let's pick right here as point 1 or point A, and then we're going to come all the way over here. What I recommend doing is not a straight line in any which way. Create a diagonal, and then we're going to pick point 2, which is going to be all the way up, say, I don't know, let's keep going up into the sky, right? So let's say we're like right at this point here, and then what you want to do is create a line that's going to take you from point A to point B. Do this in survival or however you want to do it, but make it natural. So we're gonna maybe go up here, come over this way a little bit more, then go over here, and we're a few blocks. All right, let's readjust and make sure we're going this way, and just slowly inch your way over to it. Don't use like a mathematical calculator or anything of the sort to get yourselves there. Just spend the time and actually like figure out the slope as you're kind of working. Like, okay, maybe we're like way too high here. And at this point, it's like, well, now we've got just a bunch of stone here. That cliff point is way too low, and maybe we start like bringing in a little bit of dirt action throughout here to kind of start bringing that stuff all in together to give ourselves, just make it look a little bit easier and better and get ourselves to that point. And it's okay once you start getting closer if you're like, all right, well, that point right there, probably not the best, so let's revise it. Start bringing our dirt up here a little bit further, and like this, and then we'll start just bringing our stone back in, and we have that nice little dirt section which we can use later and turn into some snow. And we're back over here above our stone point now, and you can kind of see that we're just going to bring it all in here together. And now down here that we have that point A going all the way up to our new point B, which is on that same line as that one. If I had just taken that cobblestone or that stone pillar up, it would have made more sense. That's the first start of our mountain. And then pick a bunch of other point A's, so we can, or point like C's or D or whatever, E, F, I don't know. You can go all the way through the alphabet as many times as you want. But then we have this one here, and we can start like, say, this one needs to connect up to there, and we can come over here and pick another one at this point that needs to connect up to there, and connecting up this one to here. And if you do that a bunch of times, you'll get this really rough skeleton of what the mountain shape is going to be. Connect all those up, fill in the gaps, and you got a mountain. All right, so you're at the point where you've added all of your guidelines. I'd recommend adding much more than just the 2 that I did here. And you're at the point where you're like, all right, it's time to connect everything up. And then maybe we bring these guys out over here and start linking these ones here together, and this dirt can start coming up this way a little bit more, and we start connecting everything in here like this, and then everything starts coming together, and you're like, okay, it's time to bring these up. Maybe we'll do this, bring you, and then like that, and then boop, boop, boop. And you start to run into a lot of these sections that are a little flat right here. For me personally, I know some other people do it a different way, so it's fine whichever you want to do it, but the way I would recommend is to avoid having a lot of these flatter sections right there, because when you zoom out, you start to get some really harsh lines. Like you can see this area right here where it's the same right there and same right here can be a little harsh. So what you can simply do is something like this, where all you need to do is having the blocks stepping up one, or maybe you bring it up here and do something like that to where then we have these going up, and then you can kind of just bring them down. Just avoid having a lot of sections where it's the same stuff right in here going all the way across. Another thing that you probably want to keep an eye out for is as you're building your mountain up, maybe you're coming along through here and you're just kind of building like this, Another thing that I really try and avoid throughout a lot of these is this, where it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. At most, I want to have at least at 3 blocks stepping up like this. If I see that fourth coming in where it's right like here, all I do is move that block over to there, and it actually seems to clean it up there and make it look a heck of a lot better for itself. So just a few tips on how you're placing in the stone. When you get into the grand scheme of things and everything's kind of starting to come in here together, there are a few points where you're going to run into where it's not very avoidable, or you can't avoid it, or whatever it might be. But simply just doing things like this and maybe just like right in there, that can help to make that area look a lot better. We do have these harsh lines right over here, so maybe we do something like this and raise that one up, lower that one down, and you kind of break up that harsh line that we had through there. And just simply doing that along a lot of these different places is going to help to clean up the mountain range that you're building quite a lot. And you can eventually just keep adding on all those practices here together, going all the way around, and it's going to look pretty legit. Next tip I've got here for y'all is when you're still connecting up all these points, maybe you haven't gone all the way through that section, but I would recommend going maybe like 5 blocks up here and then bringing it up like another 5 or so, and then bringing it over. And what you really want to avoid doing is doing these like that right there looks kind of like a natural slope to it, right? When we keep that going up, it looks a little bit more naturalized. What I'd avoid doing is doing your nice little dirt bits over here where we have that all connected in here together. Everything, you got your lovely double dirt in there. It's looking awesome. Everything in there is coming together, and you bring it up. You're like, all right, there's 2 blocks, and you bring like, all right, we're going to bring it up. I want this really, really steep. And so we're going to bring the mountain up all the way like this. That can look very daunting, especially from down here. If you're going for a crazy daunting feeling, that can work well for you. But then when you start adding in those extra bits to it, so you're like, all right, here we go with this, then we're going to bring this one up, and then that you got to make sure that they get at least somewhat close to each other and they're not too far off. But when you start adding in all of these ones together, it makes your mountain feel very flat. You have these big, big flat faces to the mountain. So I'd really avoid doing, I wrote down 10 blocks, but now I'm looking at it like, say that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like that's 9 right there. That for me already is too much. I would say personally, I'd probably say 7 blocks at most in one line that you're going up, unless you are purposely making a very, very steep cliff for a small section of the mountain. So you could have like a very steep section in there and then bring the mountain out, like come in this direction or so like this, and then this side kind of goes on for a little bit and comes out here. So like you have these big mounds coming out off of the sides of it, and then it's very flat and steep in the middle where maybe a lot of erosion channels had come through a lot of the rain and really smoothed out the stone. But outside of that, I would say avoid doing that steep of something when you can get a slope like this instead. Like when you zoom out really far back here, you can much more easily see the things I'm talking about with this one. Now for this one, we are back here in the regular survival world because I think this point would be much easier to showcase on a mountain that is already more or less finished. And the point I want to talk to you all about here is using variety inside of your terrain itself. Instead of right here where you see a lot of stone in itself, like it still looks pretty cool. There's a lot of variety to how the shapes of everything is going, but when it's just the stone, looks rather boring. And that's why when I'm building, and you saw me adding in those dirt spots when we were talking about the scalings of those mountains and everything like that, that's why I add in a lot of these dirt sections here as well. What you can actually do with this one is by adding in the dirt later on. I usually come back and turn it all into snow blocks. I just add the dirt first because I find I have a lot more dirt than I have snow on hand at most any given time inside of this Minecraft world. But adding in that snow and everything like that makes these mountains feel much colder than if you just allowed Minecraft terrain to, say, put snow layers on top of everything. Because you can see back here, there's snow layers on some of these points that were very, very old when it did snow in this area, because this is a mountain biome. But it looks very bad because it's only that one layer, and it looks very kind of janky and just gross looking and not the best, and it can feel very bad. It just looks like there's a bunch of white lines cutting on top of everything. So I find personally for myself that I like more is just adding in these specific sections that are going to be covered with snow, like those ones right there, like this big section we have down here, and that all works down to what we have here. If anything, it makes your cliffs actually, where it's the stone face themselves, feel a lot steeper. And then if you want to go above and beyond that, you can actually come along a lot of the stone faces that you have and add in some texture variation itself. I wanted to make these feel very cold and kind of dark and moody mountains of sorts. So I started bringing in a lot of cyan, terracotta, and gray concrete powder, mixed it into here and making it more like channels of sorts. So you can see this section right here that's right in front of us and kind of carries its way all the way up to the top there. then splits off and comes down into this way. And I just want to have a few ways that I could mix all of that stuff in together while still having a lot of the stone in here. So this is actually a fully finished section of the mountains for myself here. You can kind of see the end goal, end project of what all this is going to look like when eventually that stretches all the way down across the rest of these, and that's still going off into that distance off of there. We got a lot of blocks in place. The last tip I've got for y'all today, if you're like me and you're planning to build a giant forest connected to your mountains and you want to make sure the mountains feel very tall, because in Minecraft, the average tree we're probably going to build is probably going to be like 16 to 18 blocks tall, especially if you're building spruce trees, because those things get pretty dang big. And inside of Minecraft, we can only build up to 255 blocks tall into the sky, and when terrain starts at level 60, unless you're digging out a giant section of your world to then build mountains, which seems a little dumb, you're going to run into a lot of issues with height variation and the height levels, because the top of the mountains, that way far back point right there, that's 244, I believe, 247, which means we only have like 12 or 13 blocks left on top of that thing to go until we hit the world height, which means we're kind of out of luck as far as that one goes. Jumping in here real quick to sleep this night away because it's again a little dark out there. But what I wanted to mention about the trees, if you're planning to take them farther up into the mountains to make the mountains feel like they're a little wooded and everything, is have your big trees down here, then find a way to do can we take off with one rocket? Find a way to do some smaller trees and bring those up into the mountains up here. So you can see as the trees start coming up into the mountains, we have the very, very big ones down there. And then these guys are much, much smaller, being 7-8 blocks tall. They're about half the height of most of those ones. Even those trees right over there are relatively on the same level. Like the tops of those trees start to reach the base of these trees. But even when you look at it from all the way over here, those trees are going to feel much smaller and higher elevation because of the mountain scale and everything like that going along with them. So it's a good way to make your mountains feel much, much taller than they really are, just by having larger objects down below. And as it gets farther away, use the concept of scale to make smaller and smaller things as you go farther and farther up into the sky, and also bring your mountains together to a single peak or multiple peaks if you're making a ridge line like we have up here. But bring them all together and it'll make the mountains feel much, much taller, because like the difference between there and up there, probably I'd say that's 15 to 20 blocks, but that thing feels very, very far away compared to that tree right there. But anyways, folks, that's going to have to do it for today's episode. I hope these mountain building tips were helpful to you all. Any other questions you have about mountain building, please be sure to let me know down in the comments below. This is the last video where I am out on vacation. I actually got back home yesterday, I believe, when this video comes out, so that's pretty sweet. We are getting back in the saddle, so let me know what other type of stuff you want to be seeing moving forwards. Any other questions or tips you all want to be seeing. All that super sweet stuff would be absolutely awesome to know. But thank you so very much for watching. Click that like button if you did enjoy. Subscribe if you're brand new. And I will catch you on the flip side.